Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 4 of Beneath the Silence, Healing the Wounds of Betrayal Trauma. Today's episode is on internalization of betrayal trauma. But before I get to that and what that means, I just want to say a warm welcome to everyone that has joined, that is watching, leaving comments, sharing. I thank you so much for all of that. The more we can share, the more we can get the message out. And I'm reading your comments. I will respond. And one of these days, I'm going to plan that we have a live, like whether that's live Facebook or live on YouTube, and probably live on YouTube. And we'll do a live episode where I answer your questions. Or I may just do another podcast that's answering those questions, and whatever works best for you. So I just want to say thank you to returning listeners and to those who are new to the podcast. And to a couple of things. I don't edit, and the reason is I want the podcast to be raw, to be real, authentic, and to be vulnerable. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to screw up. I want you to know that as, a professional in the field, I'm still a human being and we all make mistakes. There is no one that is perfect. And as we talked about in episode 3, perfectionism is a component, a symptom of betrayal, often of betrayal trauma, where we internalize and say, I'm not enough, and nothing is perfect. And my podcasts aren't going to be either. My videos aren't going to be either. My pup may bark, I may drop a book, whatever the case may be. I've got my notes here. I'm maybe looking for something specific that I want to say, and so on. So it's going to be real and raw and vulnerable. You're going to hear some hard truths of my own. And eventually I will hopefully be able to interview survivors or have permission to share survivor stories, and interview some other professionals in the field. And they will be live and raw as well. Okay, thank you. So, one of the most devastating impacts of betrayal trauma is not only what others say to us, but even more devastating is what we start saying to ourselves. Internalization turns the harm we experienced outward into an inner voice inside that whispers or shouts, "It's my fault. I must have done something wrong." Or if I was only more sexy, my partner wouldn't have had an affair. If I was only more curvy, or again, bigger breasts, or we can, make all of these things. If we were just different in some way, then the betrayal wouldn't have happened. If I wasn't wearing that outfit, or maybe I was flirting and I didn't know I was flirting, and so I got raped. And it is not your fault. Betrayal trauma, it is the perpetrator's fault. End point. Not your fault. You didn't cause it. You didn't ask for it. There was nothing you said or did or didn't do that caused it to happen. It was the perpetrators. But today we're going to break down how this happens, how the internalization happens, and how to stop believing the lies that betrayal leaves behind. And as last time, like I said, we talked about symptoms and perfectionism, and those are all the symptoms and part of the internalization of betrayal. Okay. So, the main definition of what internalization is in betrayal trauma context is that we take the abuser's narrative as truth and we tell ourselves that, well, if that's what they believe, that's must be the truth. I must be doing something wrong. I must have caused it. I must have made him angry. I must have asked for it in some way. No. As we talked about in episode 3 in the symptoms, part of that is the psychological abuse. And where there is psychological abuse, that means the gaslighting, manipulation, deceit, there are lies. And a perpetrator of betrayal trauma, remember again, we talked about in, I believe, the first session that it happens over days, weeks, months, and years. There is grooming. That's manipulation. That is gaslighting. That's what you're seeing or what you're thinking is not real. And so we internalize because we question our reality. How can, if that's what they say, and we internalize, and that's what causes the symptoms of isolation, the shame, the guilt. We don't tell other people because we believe that we're to blame. And this erodes our self-trust and fosters our self-blame. As human beings, we are so good at breaking ourselves down rather than building ourselves up. We can build others up. We can people please. We can, again, we talked about people pleasing in episode 3. We can people please. We can be a yes person because we're looking for acceptance that maybe we're okay. Maybe we are a good person. We are a good person. It's what's happened to us that wasn't good. That was often evil. That was abuse. And there is a link between survival strategies. Sometimes we have to just go with the flow, go with whatever the perpetrator says because it's not safe to do anything else, or we're going to be in the chaos. And so we question, you know, our own truth, and we develop these internalized beliefs that are from the perpetrator who is often pathological liar. They're protecting themselves. They're protecting their actions. One of the things that Dr. Jennifer Fried and Pamela Burrow, well, Dr. Fried came up with in 2013, and they discussed this in their book, Blind to Betrayal. If you have not done your healing work, by the way, please, please, please do not read the book, Blind to Betrayal. Do your healing work, then read it. It's fabulous. Um, but doctors Jennifer Fried and Pamela Burrow coined the term DARVO. And DARVO is an acronym, and the D means deny. A is attach or attack or accuse. R is reverse. V is victim. O is offender or order. So the perpetrator denies your reality. They accuse or attack you. It's your fault. You did this. You caused this. What you think happened didn't happen. You asked for it. You wanted it. It's deny, accuse, and now they're the victim and you're the offender. They are so good at it. So good at it. And so we question our reality. What is real? And that's why we often isolate. So, common internal messages is I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not a good enough partner. I'm not a good enough athlete. I'm not a good enough kid. I'm just not enough. And I deserved it. I did something to deserve it. In religious betrayal trauma, often we're told this is God's will. This is what God wanted. So that I must have deserved it. I must have made God angry. I must have done something wrong that God did this to me. He caused this, I deserved it. We say things like if I were better, then they wouldn't have hurt me. If I just did what they wanted, this wouldn't have happened. And it's my job to fix it. I can't trust my own judgment. And we don't. We're no longer loyal to self. Loyalty is important in any relationship, but the most important relationship we will ever have in our life is the relationship with self. The relationship with self must be loyal. We must be loyal to self first. That is not selfish. That is not self-centered. That is not narcissistic. It is that I'm going to believe my gut instinct. My gut is trying to tell me something, and I'm going to believe it. That's why we always say, hindsight's 2020 is because after the fact, you go, oh, this is what that was about. That's what that was about. Now it all makes sense. The puzzle pieces start coming together. My gut was telling me this was wrong, but I believed my partner. I didn't have any reason not to. And we're loyal to that person. Darvo. Darvo. The perpetrator assumes the victim role, leaving the victim to take on the role of the offender. Darvo often leads to retraction, silence, and always psychological harm. This often happens in abusive relationships. And remember, when there's a perpetrator, and betrayal trauma is also relational, that's number one difference to, as we commonly know as trauma in society, it's relational. So it's all relational. And it happens in abusive relationships. Betrayal trauma is abuse. Where control is a large part of the relationship. And the control can be power imbalance, right? In addictions, often the perpetrator is protecting the addiction. And in situations at work, for example, for whistleblowers, it's still relational. It's still abusive. How many times have we heard in the news of a whistleblower being fired? Not believed. A troublemaker. Causing drama. They get written up. Relational, and it's abusive. So how internalization develops. These are attachment injuries, and I'm going to do another podcast. And I always say this I'm going to do another podcast because I've got 50 podcasts planned, outlined. So attachment is one of those podcasts in the not so distant future. So there's attachment injuries because wherever there's relations, there's attachment. And in betrayal trauma, there's relation or attachment injuries and repeated invalidation. You are wrong. You're not right. That didn't happen that way. That's part of the gaslighting, the manipulation. There is power imbalances, in relationships and institutions. Culture, religious reinforcement of victim blaming narratives. In some of those cases, it's always the women that is wrong because in those either culture or religions, it's the men are the rulers, the men are the decision makers, the men are the leaders, and women must be submissive. And that's where abuse lies as well. Betrayal. Okay. So what happens when we have internalization? There's increased shame and self-loathing, more isolation. We withdraw. We don't talk. We create patterns and cycles of unhealthy relationships if we haven't done our healing work, because we settle for less than what we deserve because we don't believe we deserve anything. So we tend to settle, and perpetrators are wonderful at love bombing. Perpetrators are fantastic at telling you what you want to hear, what you need to hear. But it's part of their grooming. It's part of a part of the psychological abuse of manipulation. And then they start to gaslight. More manipulation, more deceit. And the more often we have these types of relationships, we perpetuate that are perpetuated, the less self-worth we have and the more self-loathing we have. There's a delayed healing and reduced in help seeking. We don't go for help because nobody can help me. We say nobody can help me. And yeah, we can. We can. You deserve it. You deserve to learn to have self-compassion for yourself, to have self-respect, self-acceptance, self-like that goes into self-love. You deserve that. It's important that we name the false narrative. Believe your truth. Believe your gut. Dr. Omar Minwala calls that our second brain, our gut instinct. Believe it. It is right. It won't steer you wrong. It's practicing compassionate self-talk. It's talking to yourself as if you were your best friend. That's important. It's seeking external validation from safe sources. So support groups, safe friends, therapy. Those are safe sources. Otherwise, it's important that you validate yourself. You know your truth. And, when I first found out about my husband, like I think I said before, I felt like I was a hypocrite. Here, I helped all these people, these women especially, who had, were in intimate partner violence, rape, sexual assault, many sexual abuse, childhood sexual abuse. I mean, I have, well, now 4 trauma certifications, and not once did I ever learn about betrayal trauma. And I thought I was a hypocrite. How did I not know, being with this person for almost 34 years, did I not know that I was being manipulated, that I was groomed? Met him when I was 17. We started dating when I was 21, 6 years older. I was groomed. I was manipulated. I was gaslit. And many of my clients speak so much about similar things. And that everyone across the board, 100% internalizes in betrayal trauma. And we really have to work on that component. It's challenging, but it can be done. We start with self-care. And again, that's another podcast on self-care. But we start with self-care. We move to self-compassion. From self-care, we move to self-respect and self-acceptance. This is where we have self-like, and we can develop healthy boundaries. Without healthy boundaries, we are simply We're simply making requests. And from there, we get self-love. And that's not self-centered or narcissistic. It is that we love ourselves enough not to settle for abuse or disrespect from anyone. We know who we are at a soul level, and that's what we do. Okay? So takeaways from today is internalization makes betrayal trauma more damaging by turning the blame inward. These false narratives are learned. They're not innate. They're learned, and they can be unlearned. Self-compassion and validation are essential tools for breaking this cycle. If you're not able to validate yourself, seek therapy, get validation through your therapy from close friends, safe friends, support groups. That's where you'll receive validation. Our next episode is going to be on complex trauma and betrayal trauma. It's understanding the overlap of PTSD and what complex trauma is. That's episode 5. And again, I want to thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing not only your story, but your comments, but also sharing the podcast, YouTube, video, whatever it is. Thank you. I appreciate you, and I'm grateful for you. And I'm thankful that you're giving me this platform in helping not only you, but all those others that may be out there that you're sharing this with. And that's what I do in life. That's what fills me. That's my purpose, is helping others. And again, I can be reached at sandrajoy.ca. And the description of the podcast is the YouTube channels and my Instagram, as well as, Beneath the Silence Instagram, as well as the podcast forums. So thank you. And in closing, I see you, I hear you, and I believe you. Until next time.